All right, fixed cell references. This is a question I get asked fairly regularly, and that is, what do the dollar signs mean in the formulas? And I think it's once you get your head around it, it's an absolute game changer if you haven't been using them before. But it is slightly tricky to actually understand because it seems a little bit overwhelming. But when you actually realize what's going on, it makes a massive difference. Let me explain to you what I mean. Let's just do a very, very simple formula. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to refer to this cell here. Now, what I've done in this range of cells here is I've actually put E7 because that's column E, row 7, E8, E9, F7, so on and so forth, just so that we can see what's happening with this formula. So if I simply put equals that, and then I drag that formula. Now, what I would just say at this point is just watch the video as well regarding different paste options. Dragging a formula like this is the same as copying and pasting. Sometimes you don't want to actually use normal paste. You want to use one of the other pastes, like formulas or what have you, if you've got formatting that's already been done. So do watch that video as well. But for now, I'm just going to drag it across. You can see that one says E7, F7. So as you drag the formula, this one refers to E7 and that one refers to F7. So as you drag it across, it follows the cells across, and as you drag it down, it follows the cells down. But what if we don't want it to do that? What if I want that all to be E7 to E10, that one all to be E7 to E10, E7 to E10? So I want it to drag down, but I don't want it to drag across. I don't want the formula to drag across. I want to stay in this column. If I go to E7 and I click on that formula, now on my keyboard, I have to press function and F4. It might be function and F4, it might just be F4. You have to have a play around and see. But what that does is it adds those dollar signs into various places. So you've got four options. You can either have it without any dollar signs, which means it's going to drag. If you drag it horizontally or vertically, it's going to change cells, and it's going to change the reference of the cells. If you press it once, it puts $2 signs in, which means now it's going to drag absolutely nothing. It will stay E7. So if we drag that down and we drag it across, they're all E7. It's fixed on that cell. It doesn't move. Okay, well, that's not really what we wanted, but that's useful to know. So now we can either press F4 to go to the next one, or we can even just manually remove the dollar signs. So let's just manually remove them for now. If we take out the second one, so we keep the first dollar sign in. So the first dollar sign refers to the E, which is a column, and the second dollar sign refers to the 7, which is the row. So if we take out the second one, now when we drag down, it drags it down, but when we drag it across, it stays in column E. So you can see what effect that's had on. So then the last one that we can do is the other way around, where we can remove that one and put in this one, which means that we've now got the E for the 7, but the dollar for the 7, but not for the E. So now if we drag it down, it stays on 7, but if we drag it across, it goes to F7, G7. So you've got those various options. So essentially it's the same starting point, the same reference, but just by locking the various references, whether it be the column reference or the row reference, you can actually lock that in place. So when you do drag it or copy and paste formulas, or however it is that you end up duplicating the formula, it will keep whichever reference you want it to keep. And now this is a very simple formula. This is just equals that cell reference. Imagine if you had a whole long formula, every single cell reference or every single range reference that you put within that formula could have the dollars in the various places in order to tell it what it needs to lock in place when you move in those formulas. So the more you add in, obviously, the more overwhelming it becomes. And I don't want to show you one of those complicated ones and confuse the issue, but just bear in mind that if you then go through that, the formula, each and every reference where you reference a cell or a range of cells can be locked in this way in order to lock. So what you could even do is you could have a situation where you lock one reference, because that's always looking in that column, but then the other one needs to change. Let's just do one like that, for example. let's do some X's here, and I'll show you a slightly longer formula. Don't get freaked out by this, but I just want to show you what it'll do. So let's just use, if we're using, for example, a concatenate form, we'll just use it as constat, which basically just means put the two strings together. If we say that, and then we want to have a little dash, and then we wanted to say that, for example. See, it says X and then E7, but now what happens? When we go down, that all works out, but when we take it across, now it goes to the dollar. Now that's wrong because we wanted to say X. So what we would do in this situation is we'd go to the C7, we'd say, yes, we want to lock the C because we want to lock it in column C, but not in 7. We want it to be able to go down. And then in E7, we say we don't want to lock that at all because we want that to move across to follow what we've got. So now when I copy that one down, drag it across, now it says X, X, X with the F, E, F, G. If we actually only had one X, now those ones are missing, then what we would do is we'd actually put the other reference in and say, well, lock C and 7. And then when we do that, oh, but that's not what I want to do. There we go. Now it's using that reference throughout everywhere because I've locked that reference, and the other one I've left unlocked, so it follows where I'm dragging the formula. So obviously this one's slightly more complicated than the last formula, but it can get massively complicated when you've got a whole string of references, and you can go and lock and unlock independently. You've just got to think about what you're doing for each one, think about how you need to lock it, and then once you've dragged the data, actually just have a look and make sure that it's working properly before moving on. But that's a very, very useful thing to be able to do. And throughout all the other videos, you'll see me locking and unlocking where necessary, but I'm not necessarily going to go through it because I've gone through it all in this video. So I hope that that's helpful to you. And if you've never used this function before, enjoy, because this can open up a lot of possibilities and save you a lot of time in manually having to edit these formulas. Thank you very much.